A Holyoke native is back in Western Mass after living through Hurricane Dorian. He survived while he was on his boat the entire storm. Today, I sat down with Frank Brunel, who explained to me what he experienced, how he's recovering, and what's next for him. Back in his daughter's living room in Holyoke, Frank Brunel sits still sore, recounting what he experienced after Category 5 Hurricane Dorian slammed the Bahamas. Frank is retired and has lived on his current boat the last 8 years, the Bahamas having a special meaning for him.
Buried my father's ashes down there on one of those beaches a few years ago, and that's one of the reasons I go back there all the time, to talk to him and hang out with him on the beach sometimes.
This time around, he was visiting friends on the Abacos Island that he hasn't seen in 3 years. They began to get word that Hurricane Dorian was approaching. My original plan was to be closer to Marsh Harbor. I thought I had a place picked out that I was going to, call my hurricane hole. But his decision to stay in Little Harbor was one that saved his life. Marsh Harbor, seen here in the eye of the storm, he says, was completely wiped out. He later learned that his friends that lived there didn't survive the storm.
I had heard afterwards that, when all these boats broke free in Marsh Harbor, it was like a 70 or 80 foot boat. Ended up, it was basically a tidal wave rose up because of the eye of the storm, basically sucks a wall of water up into the air. And that's kind of what happened. Anyways, it picked up this big boat and it landed right on these folks' home and crushed them to death. And then the boat was swept, another quarter mile into town.
Knowing his best bet was to stay in Little Harbor, he began to anchor down.
It's surrounded by these mangrove trees, and those are fairly indestructible in the storm. So those are things you kind of look for to tie into, because they'll kind of keep you there. Although one of my anchors dragged through it, and I did end up, up in the trees some for a little while with the boat, but. I would have lost the boat had I not stayed on board.
Frank's friends thinking he was crazy for staying on board. They took his dog Chanty to keep her safe, but little did he expect he would be saving another dog named Puppet, all while being pushed around by the wind as seen in this video he took.
And I look out and I see here's Puppet swimming around my boat out there, and it's starting to blow. And so anyways, I had to go out on my swim platform and try to pull her up on board.
His daughter Bevan anxiously trying to communicate with her dad, only able to track his location thanks to a GPS, but not being able to actually talk to him. But now back reunited with his daughter, Frank says he's happy to be alive and he hopes everyone helps those affected by the storm.
I need folks to keep focused on the people who really need help down there, and to help bring some tourism back there, because they're just beautiful, beautiful place on earth, one of the most beautiful places on earth that I can think of, and I'd love to see it all come back somehow.
Frank's dog Chanty and the one he saved remain in a shelter down in the Bahamas. He tells me he's hoping to sail down again in November on a boat filled with supplies.